Number 11. A company opens an account with an initial balance of $36,100. The account earns interest and no additional deposits or withdrawals are made. The account balance is given by an exponential function a, where a of t is the account balance in dollars t years after the account is opened. The account balance after 13 years is $68,071.93. Which equation could define a? All right. So a function here, a of t years after the account is open, they're saying if I plug t, the number of years after it's happened, if I plug it into one of these equations, it's going to give me this final balance of $68,071.93 when t is 13. All right, so the type of formula they're using, this one shows up quite a bit on the SAT. You often will see a variation of this when you're talking about population increases. That's their favorite form of this question, to have a population increase or decrease. And it's going to be in this format. You have the initial number. This could be a number of animals. It could be a balance, whatever it is, times, and this is going to be your rate of increase or decrease. You start with 1, then you add or subtract, depending on whether it's an increase or decrease. And then it's the percent of increase or decrease, but you're going to write it in a decimal. And then it's to the power of, most commonly, t. It's units of time. How many increments? Is it every month, every day, every week, every year, whatever it is? How many of those increments? How often is this increase happening? This is not talking about interest that is, it's like an annual rate, but it's compounded daily, weekly, monthly. Those don't show up too often on the SAT. I mean, they may be there, but I haven't seen them in a while. This one is much more common. Definitely know this one. If you want to learn the compound where it's, compounding monthly, daily, what have you, that won't hurt you to know that information, but definitely be familiar with this setup. So here it is talking about an account with money. So my initial number is the initial balance. That is 36,100. Then it's going to be 1 plus or minus a percent of increase. Now, I don't know what that percent increase is. There's nothing in here that tells me what the percent of change is, but I do know it's increasing because I started with 36,000 and my balance after 13 years is 68,000. That's nice. So it increased. So I know it's going to be plus something. It's going to be 1 plus a percentage, which I'm going to write as a decimal, 0 point something. And then it's to the power of t. All right, now, which of these would be representing this? There's really only one option. Even without me knowing what the percent of increase was, there's only one option. Because this one, B and C, or these two, B and C, both are starting with 31,700. I don't know how they got that. I really don't know where that number came from. All their options are usually numbers they expect students to come up with, but I'm not sure how a student would come up with that number. I don't see it in there. Do you know how? Let me know. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious where that number is coming from. But those are both out because we know that initial balance, that initial number needs to be out front, and it's 36,100. So only A and D have 36,100. And this 1.05 is the only thing it could be because it's 1 plus something. It's greater than 1. 0.05 is not greater than 1. That's out. It can only be D, which means our interest rate must have been 5%, 0.05. That it was a 5% interest every year over 13 years. We don't have to do the math. If you'd like to plug 13 into this equation and see if it gets you to 68,000, etc. Not a bad idea if you have the time. I wouldn't recommend doing this on the initial pass through, but if you complete all your answers and you'd like to check, that is a way you can check this. In this particular case, the only reason you would have needed to do that math is if there was another option down here that was very similar. Like say if they had given you A of t equals 36,100. I'm going to erase this so we can see this. If they had said, boom, there you go. They had said A of t equals 36,100 times 1.06 to the power of t. And then it's questioning, okay, was this a 5% increase or a 6% increase? And we would need to plug in 13 for t into both of these equations and see which one gets me to 68,000. That is a possible scenario, so be aware of that. But in this particular problem, we do not have to worry about that because there is only one that's possible. We do not have to compare different interest rates. This is the only one that starts with the correct initial balance, and it's the only one that's showing an increase every year. So A is my answer.
Hey guys, it's Alyssa, and if you're looking for more SAT or PSAT help, go to mathwithalyssa.com. There you can get over 25 hours of test prep. This is for both math and reading and writing, both sections. They also come with practice questions, downloadable study guides, and more. Links to everything are in the description down below. Leave me a comment if you have any questions about this video or any suggestions for future videos. I'm all ears. And if this video was helpful or useful in any way, please let the algorithm know about it. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later. Bye. And I think I slapped my leg because that's something you do. Why do I slap my leg? Why am I slapping my leg as I'm talking? Who knows? I don't know.